In Revelation chapter 13, we learn about the beast who rises from the sea. We've talked about how the sea is the place of the dead. Okay, he's going to rise from the dead. The dragon then is going to give to this resurrected being his power, his throne, and his great authority. And then in verse 11, we read about another beast, a second beast who rises from the land. This second beast is the false prophet. He's the one who's going to work these signs in the presence of that first beast who rose from the dead. And he is going to direct people on earth to follow the first beast, the one who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. He is also responsible for the creation of the image of the beast, along with the earth dwellers who have to cooperate with him in this. He is the one who's going to insist that everybody who wants to be a part of the beast thing, the beast kingdom, they have to basically swear allegiance to the beast by taking his number, and that number will be on their forehead or on their right hand. We're going to look at that in another video, what it means to have this mark on your forehead or on your hand. Everybody, rich, poor, slave, free, whoever, is going to have this mark, so that nobody can buy or sell unless they have the mark. That is the name of the beast or the number of his name. So verse 18, this calls for wisdom. Let him who has understanding reckon the number of the beast, for it is a human number, or some translations will say it is the number of a man, and its number is 666. Okay, this calls for wisdom. This calls for wisdom. We're going to get a little bit of wisdom today, and we're going to find out the meaning of the number 666. Okay, so in a previous video where I talked about the mystery of lawlessness, we learned that a mystery is not something that's unknowable or something that can't be known. It is something that is known, that we do know what it is because it's been revealed to us by God. When God tells us secret and hidden things, he's revealing a mystery to us. So now we know. So whenever we see that word mystery, whether it's the mystery of lawlessness, the mystery of the harlot, the mystery of godliness, the mystery of the church, this is something that was hidden in the past, but we now have revelation. We now have light on it. We understand what it is. So in Revelation 13, we learn that the beast has a number, that it's the number of a man. That makes sense because we know that the beast is going to rule the earth. We know that you can't rule the earth unless you're a man. Mankind was given dominion over the earth. Nobody else has dominion over the earth except for men. So I've done videos on this. I'll leave a link to the idea about man's dominion in the description box. So a lot of people, when they teach the book of Revelation, they teach it as though it were some kind of logical, linear, chronological book of the Bible, but it's not. It's very clearly not. It doesn't make use of the Greek style that we're used to, which is, very logical, linear, rational, makes sense. We can spell it out. We can draw it out on a timeline. We can make all of this very clean. When you're using the Hebraic style, it's actually a lot more nuanced, okay? And if you don't like symbolism and you don't like having to sort of decipher clues and images and, go back and forth, really, it's the whole idea of going back and forth throughout the scriptures and to be able to determine what something is meaning or talking about. The imagery that we find in Revelation, we find in the Old Testament. We find actually in other passages in the New Testament. And we have to be going back and forth all the time in order to come up with the many layers that are part of the book of Revelation. Layers of meaning, layers upon layers. And a lot of people just don't want to take the time. But if you want to understand a book as complex as Revelation, you're going to have to take the time that it takes, or at least listen to other people who've taken the time that it takes to be able to understand what some of these clues mean. So one of the things that I do when I'm interpreting this prophetic book is I actually follow the themes in Revelation first, because it's the primary context, and then I'll follow the theme somewhere else in Scripture. And usually we can go back to Genesis and then follow the trail through in terms of themes. So what I'm looking at today, what I'm going to follow today is the words, "This calls for wisdom." Okay, this phrase, "This calls for wisdom," is used another time in the book of Revelation. Revelation 17:9. "This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains." Revelation 17 is not really a part of the storyline. What it is giving us is an explanation of who the harlot is, Mystery Babylon, and her relationship with the beast and with other kings. Okay, this is talking about the relationship between the beast and the harlot, between the harlot system of control and the beast empire or the beast kingdom. See in Revelation chapter 13, "This calls for a mind with wisdom," or "This calls for wisdom." We should immediately go over to Revelation 17, where it is also talking about a mind with wisdom, and see if there's a connection between the beast that we read about in Revelation 13, whose number is 666, it's the number of a man, and the mind with wisdom that talks about the relationship between the harlot and the beast. Okay, and a lot of people don't realize that the harlot and the beast don't like each other. Well, the harlot likes the beast. The harlot likes the kings. She controls the kings. And she's kind of oblivious to the fact that the beast is going to hate her. And we read about that in Revelation 18 when it talks about the judgment of the harlot, that she sits as a queen. She doesn't think that anything bad is going to happen to her. She is totally oblivious to the destruction that awaits her at the hands of the beast. We're going to look at Revelation 17, and we're going to see if Revelation 17, a mind with wisdom, can actually shed some more light on this number right here, the number of a man, 666. So let's start with verse 7. "But the angel said to me, 'Why marvel?'" Okay, this was when John was looking at the harlot and saw that she was drunk with the blood of the saints. "And the angel says to him, 'Why marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns that carries her.'" So what follows after this is going to be the angel giving further revelation on this woman that John sees, this woman who's drunk with the blood of the saints. And the angel says, "I'm going to give you some more light on this. I'm going to tell you." What we find out later is he's actually giving the wisdom that we need to know, the things we need to know in order to comprehend the identity of the beast and the woman who rides the beast, the woman who's on top of the beast. Verse 8, "The beast that you saw was, is not, and is to ascend from the bottomless pit and go to perdition." All right? There's a beast who was, is not, is going to ascend from the bottomless pit and go to perdition. Okay, so this is the life cycle of the beast. What's interesting here is that we have something that used to be, then sort of dropped off of the scene, and then is going to ascend from the pit, and then is going to go into perdition. Okay, what is perdition? Okay, this is the lake of fire. This is judgment. All right. Who is going to ascend from the pit? Okay, this is the book of Revelation. What is the pit? The pit is also known as the abyss. And this is the place where the fallen angels are kept. In Revelation 9, we read about the angels of the bottomless pit. And we read that there is the king of the angels of the bottomless pit, and his name is Apollyon, or Abaddon. Okay, so there's really bad guys in the pit, bad fallen angels. they have a king over them, okay? And all those angels in the bottomless pit have crowns on their head. And they're golden crowns. It looks like gold anyway. So it looks like they're divine. And he is the guy who is the head or the king over these kings in the bottomless pit. It's the reverse of Christ, who is the king over the 24 elders, kings and priests who are also kings wearing the golden crowns on their heads, okay? So it's the reverse of the 24 elders that we see in heaven. And we know from Jude, verse 6, and from other passages as well, in 2 Peter and so on, that these guys used to be on the earth. In Genesis chapter 6, we read about how they mated with human women, and then they were put in the pit. These fallen angels used to be here on earth. The flood came. They were put in the pit. They're going to ascend from the bottomless pit, and in particular, this guy right here. And after that, they're going to go into perdition, or they're going to be judged in the lake of fire. Jude tells us that it's at the great day that they're going to be judged, and that is the great day is at the beginning of the millennium, which is the end of what we call the tribulation, or actually it's even prior to the end of the 42 months. So this is the first part of the light that's going to be shed on who is the harlot and who is the beast that carries her. So this is part of the answer to who is the beast. The beast, remember, is the one who rises from the dead, the beast from the sea that we read about in Revelation 13. So this is part of who the beast is. What we learn here is that the beast is going to ascend from the pit. In other words, the beast is partly a fallen angel, okay, Apollyon. Okay, that's what we've learned so far about the beast. He's one of those Genesis 6 corruptors of humanity, was placed in the pit. He was not. He's going to ascend from the pit. Okay, Revelation 11 also tells us that it's the beast who ascends from the bottomless pit who kills the two witnesses. All right, and then we're told that the beast is going to go into perdition. Okay, Apollyon and all the watchers actually will go to perdition. Okay, so we're just going to put him right up here. He is someone who was, who is not, who's going to ascend from the pit and then go to perdition. Let's keep reading. Verse 8, the beast that you saw was and is not and is to ascend from the bottomless pit and go to perdition, and the dwellers on earth whose names have not been written in the book of life from the foundation of the world will marvel to behold the beast, because it was, is not, and is to come. Okay, let's go back to Revelation 13, because this seems to be kind of a repeat of what we read in Revelation 13. It says this about the beast from the sea, that one of its heads had a mortal wound. The wound was healed. Men worshiped the dragon, for he'd given authority to the beast. They worshiped the beast, saying, who is like the beast and who can fight against it? And then go down to verse 8. And all who dwell on earth will worship it, everyone whose name has not been written before the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb that was slain. Okay, so we know that the earth dwellers are going to worship the beast. So we're already kind of clued in that there's something about Apollyon and this guy who rose from the dead that is connected, right? The dwellers on earth are going to worship the beast because it was, it is not, and is to come. Okay, again, we're talking about this man who was, that is, he was alive, he died, and he rose. He's back again, right? This is the man from Revelation 13, okay, the beast, who was, who died, and rose from the dead. He had a mortal wound. One of the 7 heads was wounded, okay, by the sword. He was killed, and then he rose from the dead. This is the one, the dwellers on earth, whose names have not been written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, will marvel to behold the beast, because it was, is not, and is to come. This is Revelation 17, verse 8. Verse 9, this calls for a mind of wisdom. Okay, so Revelation 13 talks about the people who take the mark of the beast and so on. This calls for a mind of wisdom about the number of his name. And the number, it's the number of a man, and it's 666. Well, we know that this is a man who dies and is going to come back and rise from the dead. Let's keep reading here. This calls for a mind with wisdom. Now is when the angel is going to describe for us the relationship between the harlot and the beast. This here is a man, okay, he lived, he died, and he rose again. That's the guy that the earth dwellers are going to worship, okay? So we know that the beast is a man, okay? Well, that's interesting. The beast is both someone who comes from the bottomless pit, and he's a man. He's a man who died from a mortal wound and who rose from the dead. Now let's look at the harlot, all right? So the harlot is seated on 7 mountains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. When we see the harlot seated on these mountains, what it's saying is that she is over, she's on top of, she is riding these 7 mountains, okay? So she is controlling this entity here. She controls this one, this one, this one, that one, this one, that one. She is the controller. She is over those 7 mountains. It says there also 7 kings. So the woman is seated on 7 mountains. Okay, in the scripture, a mountain can represent a kingdom. Okay, in Daniel chapter 2, the stone that hits the feet of this giant statue, metallic statue, head of gold, and so on. And then the stone becomes a mountain and it fills the whole earth. There's other passages in the scripture that talk about the mountain of the Lord being the place that he rules from. So there are earthly mountains too, earthly kingdoms that rule over, and I believe it's that they rule over God's people. It's not just 7 kingdoms throughout the whole earth. It's the ones that happen to rule over the nation of Israel. So we're not talking about Rome being a city of 7 hills, or, Constantinople, or any other place that is a city that has 7 hills that it's built on. What we're talking about is symbolism here. Let's not be so literal in this stuff. Let's use the explanation that's given to us in scripture. The mountains represent kingdoms, and they represent kings. People who are part of this, the kingdoms here. But notice, if this guy is the first king, and then we have a second king and a third king, so on and so forth, up to the 7th king, the harlot is over all of these. This is a mysterious entity who is actually controlling these kingdoms. She's over the kingdoms. She's been running the show. She's the elites, or the people we don't see, who actually are the puppet masters, and actually Satan is behind it all. And remember, the harlot is demonically controlled, or satanically controlled. Satan is running this, okay? He is using this system, this harlot system, to control first kings. He uses it to control kings, who then control kingdoms. So these are 7 mountains on which the woman is seated. They are also 7 kings, 5 of whom have fallen. One is, the other has not yet come, and when he comes, he must remain only a little while. So according to John, what the angel's telling John at the time. 5 of these have fallen. One is, I think that's Rome, and one is yet to come. This is a future king that hasn't come on the scene yet. This guy is going to come on the scene at the end times. Because remember, we're talking about the harlot and the beast now and their relationship. And the beast that these people are going to worship is going to be this one here, sort of. Let's keep reading. And when he comes, this 7th king, he must remain only a little while. Okay, so this guy right here is only here a little while. Short time, very short. Little while, a short time. And as for the beast that was and is not, it is an 8th, and it belongs to the 7 and goes to perdition. Okay, so remember when we talked about Apollyon? Apollyon was, is not, ascended from the bottomless pit and goes to perdition. And then we found out there is a man who dies, who rises from the dead and is to come. And then here we read that the beast that was, is not, is an 8th, but belongs to the 7 and goes to perdition. Okay, so there is a man. This is where hopefully it gets clearer. He was, he is not. He's the 8th, but he's part of the 7. We're talking about kings here. And he goes to perdition. Okay, I want you to notice here that the harlot is going to be over the 7th king. Okay, remember, she's over 7 kings. Is she over the 8th king? Nope, she is not over the 8th king. She sits on 7 kings, but she isn't over the 8th king. Why? Because she's going to be destroyed. Later on it says that the beast and the 10 kings, they hate the harlot. They'll devour her flesh and they'll burn her with fire. Okay, this is that hour when the harlot is destroyed at the 6th trumpet. In other words, when the 8th king, who is one of the 7, begins to rule, he will not rule underneath the harlot. Okay, the 7th king is also the 8th king after he has risen from the dead. He was, he is not. He's one of the 7 kings, right? But he will go to perdition. The beast that was and is not is an 8th. It belongs to the 7 and it goes to perdition. This calls for a mind with wisdom. You need to go to chapter 17 where the angel is going to tell us. He's going to explain to John the mystery of the woman, the harlot who rides the beast, and give us the wisdom that we need to be able to make the connection that the beast is an angel from the pit and a man who dies and is resurrected. And it's also the 7th king who becomes the 8th king. Verse 12, and the 10 horns that you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received royal power, but they are to receive authority as kings for 1 hour together with the beast. These have one mind and give over their power and authority to the beast. Okay, just like the dragon's going to give his power and authority to the beast. And then it says, and they will make war on the Lamb. It's jumping into the future now. And the Lamb will conquer them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those with him are called, chosen, and faithful. Okay, so when Revelation is talking about, this calls for a mind with wisdom, or this calls for wisdom when it comes to the number 666. And then the angel in Revelation 17 actually explains to us what is the mystery of the woman and what is the mystery of the beast, the 7-headed beast who carries her. And so what we find out is that the harlot has existed for a very long period of time. And she has ruled over kings and kingdoms up through the time of Rome, and will continue on into the future. Okay, this seventh king is going to also have control over Israel. And the harlot is going to have control over the seventh king. He ain't going to like it. He's going to die, though, and rise from the dead. And as soon as he's risen from the dead, he and 10 kings are going to be given authority for an hour. That hour, that sixth trumpet, hour, day, month, and year, when Mystery Babylon, the harlot, is destroyed. So what is the number 666 all about? Okay, the number 6 is the number of a man. Man was created on the 6th day. When you have 3 6s, what we've done now is we basically have an amplified man, okay, or what I would call a superman. What the elites call transhuman. But do you know that Christ is also this? Okay, he is also an amplified God-man. He is the Son of God and the Son of Man. He goes beyond just being human to being, he is God. He always has been God. He's God in human form. So the original 666 is probably Christ. I know this is going to blow a few circuits. One of my subs brought this to my attention, that this number is first associated with King Solomon. And the amount of gold that he received. King Solomon is actually a type of Christ during the millennium. And the beast is going to have his version of the millennium. He does a counterfeit of everything that Christ does. Gold represents divinity or things that are divine. And King Solomon and his rule of peace, remember his name means peace, shalom. He had a rule of peace and wealth and wisdom during the time that he was ruling, and in those ways he is a type of Christ. Of course, Solomon screwed up. He did a lot of bad things. He married foreign women, set up altars to foreign gods, and so on. In those things, he is not a type of Christ. The type does break down at a certain point. But Solomon is a type of Christ's rule during the millennium. All right, now there's going to be the seed of the serpent who is going to try to have his rule over the earth, and he is going to be Lord of the earth. He's king of the earth once he is manifested or revealed at the time that he takes his seat in the temple of God. That is when the Antichrist is revealed. He is not revealed because he makes a peace covenant. The passage in Daniel is not referring to the Antichrist. It's referring to Christ at his first coming with the new covenant, right? And the one that he shed his blood to ratify when he put an end to sacrifice and offering. So Christ has already fulfilled that first 3.5 years of Daniel's 70th week. He's going to return at the time of the abomination. That's when he's going to take the remnant of Israel into the wilderness. He will personally guide them into the wilderness. And then he will fulfill that last 3.5 years of Daniel's 70th week. But what will happen when the Antichrist is revealed at the time he takes his seat in the temple of God, proclaiming he's God? He will be this right here. He's going to be a risen man. Okay, he's risen from the dead. It's not an act. He actually is going to die and rise from the dead. Christ will allow this. Christ is the one with the keys to death and Hades. He's going to allow this to happen. He's going to be risen from the dead. He's going to be indwelt by Apollyon, who is the king of what we call the sons of God, the fallen angels. This being is going to indwell him. He's going to ascend from the bottomless pit, and together the body of this person who's risen from the dead and Apollyon are going to join together and kill the two witnesses. Okay, so we're talking about the seventh king who is going to die. He'll come back as the eighth king and destroy the harlot. Because remember, the harlot does not sit on 8 mountains. The harlot sits on 7, and this guy hates the harlot, and he and the 10 kings are going to be given authority to kill her, and the 8th king will rule without the harlot. No harlot. The 8th king is the beast who ascends from the bottomless pit, the beast who rises from the dead, joined together, an amplified man who looks like Christ. It's the false Christ. Okay. It's the fake Christ. It's the false Christ. This is the wisdom of Revelation chapter 17 that's given to us. And we are actually given a timeline for this. We are told that the harlot is not going to control or be a part of the beast kingdom. He hates her and he's going to destroy her. The harlot does not sit on 8 kings. She only sits on 7. She only has control over 7. And then she will be thrown off. Revelation 18 tells us that she isn't anticipating that this will happen, but it will. She is going to be destroyed. There will be some remnants, some residue of her left over, but she is going to be virtually incapacitated when the beast begins to reign. He does not share his kingdom with the harlot. Satan has been using the harlot to control kingdoms and kings, but once his son is on the throne, he doesn't need that anymore. He's going to give all his power, throne, and authority to the beast. He's not going to give it to any of the demons or, other fallen entities. He's going to give it solely to his son, the fake Christ. And the harlot is out of the picture except for some remnants of her that will finally be destroyed in their entirety when Christ returns at the time of Armageddon and so on. It's one of the bowl judgments. So one of the problems that we have in interpreting Revelation is that people don't make these connections. They don't make the connection between this calls for a mind with wisdom in Revelation 13, talking about the beast and the number 666 and so on. It doesn't make it the connection with Revelation 17 because that seems so far down the road. We're not going to make that connection. We're not going to go back and tie these two together. That when the angel describes what is this mystery of the woman, the mind of wisdom, what does that mean? It spells it all out. And I agree, it's kind of a sort of a not a very straightforward way. The angel used the symbolic language that's already been being used in Revelation to tell us what 666 is. It's first off, it's the number of Christ in the millennial reign. The God-man coming back and reigning, divine reign during the millennium. It's co-opted to a fake kind of amplified man, a superman, a beyond human, transhuman person, the fake Christ who is indwelt by the beast who ascends from the bottomless pit, Apollyon, who is a man who dies and comes back again. He's the 7th king who will not be ruled by the harlot as the 8th king. Okay, the 7th king is the rider on the white horse who is given a crown. And we'll be looking at that on a later date. I was looking through my Revelation chapter by chapter series, and I realized I haven't done 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 of Revelation. So I need to get on the stick there and talk about some of those. So hopefully I'll be doing that in some future videos. I think one of the big problems with most eschatology nowadays is that people aren't talking about what is the tribulation all about? And this is something that we're going to need to share with the people who come after us. It's all about how God is going to allow all the fallen entities to be consolidated here on earth so that when Christ returns, he can get rid of the fallen sons of God, the Genesis 6 entities, the fallen sons of God who mated with human women. He'll get rid of all of those guys. He'll get rid of the demons He'll get rid of the people who take on fallen sons of God spirits and become made in the image of the beast. He'll get rid of the false prophet. He'll get rid of the beast. The Antichrist is all about judging fallen entities. It's not about God's judgment of fallen humanity. That doesn't happen until the great white throne judgment. The only people who are going to be judged when Christ returns are the ones who follow the beast, who worship the beast, who become part of the image of the beast, who take his number or his name, who worship him. And their judgment will already be sealed because they're going to be warned ahead of time. Anybody who does this is going to be thrown into the lake of fire. So the number 666 is actually, it's the number of a man. It's an amplified man. It's a superman. It's a transhuman man. It's the fake Christ. It's the fake 666, the 666 talents of gold that King Solomon got. And there's other aspects to that number 666 which first connect to Christ. All right, and I may link to a video that expounds a little more on that. But it's the combination of Apollyon, this man who is the seventh king who only remains a little while, then dies and comes back as the eighth king, this man who dies and returns as the beast from the sea of death, who then rules the world. And the people who want to follow him, people whose names were never written in the Lamb's Book of Life. From the foundation of the world, these people's names were never there. They are going to worship the beast, and they will take his number. And some of them will even be created in the image of the beast. They will offer themselves up to die. They will be given breath. They will come back to life again. And now they will be inhabited by one of the fallen angels, the fallen sons of God, who were chained in the pit, who are released at the fifth trumpet. I think we have one more video that I'm going to do on the mark of the beast and those who take it. And that will be where we talk about the forehead and the hand. So don't lose the plot. This is about God judging fallen angels, demons, the fallen watchers from the pit, watchers who indwell fallen humanity, and the earth dwellers whose names were never written in the Lamb's Book of Life from the foundation of the world, who will worship the beast and take his mark. That's all that this is about. That is the story of the end times. Okay, that's the story. Don't lose the plot. All right, we'll see you on another video. Till then, have a blessed day.